We are fortunate to have our speaker here today. Bruce Margolin has dedicated the past 40 years of his career to litigating criminal matters and specializing in marijuana and medical marijuana cases. He was a candidate for governor of the state of California in 2003. He served as the chairman of the Ethics Committee for the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. He's been the director of the Los Angeles Normal Chapter, a national organization for the reform of marijuana laws since 1973. And he has been awarded the Certificate of Appreciation from the ACLU. To say the least, Bruce knows a few things about marijuana laws. In fact, he wrote the book, one might say, on marijuana laws. In fact, he literally did write the book on marijuana laws, and most of you have a copy of this. So without any further ado, please join me in welcoming Bruce Margolin.
Thank you, Mr. Stryker, and thank all of you for attending. It's indeed a pleasure to be here and to share this little bit that I know about marijuana laws, and I'll do my best to provide as much as I can about it. Those people that are not here, they can get a copy of my guide by going to 1-800-420-LAWS.com, and you can download a PDF copy of the Margolin guide that has the cases, etc., that I'm going to talk about today. Lawyers, you know, we all want to share with each other. We're all brothers and sisters. We're always down for justice. But I have a special reason for being here today myself, because you know why? No one belongs in jail for marijuana. That's my byline. I don't think anybody deserves to see a thing of custody in a marijuana case. And I know probably most of you feel the same way, knowing the other kind of crimes we have to deal with. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, now, the marijuana laws are very confusing. You all bring that up, and I'll tell you there's many, many courts that say the same thing. Typically, they're not aware of the laws. They haven't researched the laws. They haven't considered the laws because they're hard to understand. And understand that the marijuana laws are relatively recent. In that 1996, when we passed the Compassionate Use Act, it's not long ago, and Senate Bill 420, which was passed in 2005, again, is recent.
Bruce Margolin actually was the person who got me on the stand first. And when you consider what is a cannabis expert, and you can't go to school unless you've heard of Oaksterdam University, that's up in north. And I actually am a professor. I taught when they had classes down here. It was recently shut down, and they're reopening it up in the Bay Area. But there is no school you can go to. There's no Cannabis 101, and basically, my job is to counter the police experts. And what makes a police expert? Well, I've arrested a bunch of people, I've pulled up a bunch of plants, and I've talked to a bunch of people, and I received some training. Well, as a qualified patient, I've grown cannabis. I have talked with thousands of patients about how they use it, why they use it.
That everybody had to participate in the collective to make it a viable collective. And we argued that was ridiculous. Nothing in the law. And indeed, the Parliament of this, and they did it out in San Bernardino, and they got away with it with some judges, and they took it to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals said, oh, well, they all weren't participating in this grow operation. But it turns out the case went up, People versus Calvin, just came down relatively recently, about 6 months ago. Calvin was transporting a pound of marijuana from one dispensary to the next, and the Court of Appeals held that that was completely proper for a member of a collective, and he was actually one of the managers of the collective. And it also held that members of the collective did not have to participate in the grow operation or the cultivation or anything else like that. They can simply support their collective, and it can be a viable collective. You have to also read them as well, learn in law school. If you don't read the cases, you're not going to remember these issues. You got to sit down and dig through them. They're interesting because they're weed cases, and they're okay. They're easy to watch, listen to. But Mrs. Llanos, in that case, for example, members were members of more than one collective. As a matter of fact, I think Ursus Llanos himself went to another collective and bought some weed and brought it back to his collective, and the Court of Appeals said that that was a justifiable potential defense under the laws, and therefore Mr. Ursus Llanos was entitled to a retrial in this case. So, again, don't pay too much attention to the district attorney's opinion about what they think the law is, because my experience is until they get to the trial court, do they start scrambling about what the jury instructions are, and really how does this law work, and they're just not sure of themselves any more than you are. And if you can come in with a viable defense, if you have a judge you can get to listen, you can win these cases. Now, I'm open for questions, I'm sure you have many. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for the honor of being here. And go out there and teach these judges what the law is, and we'll all be done with these marijuana cases soon. Thank you.